and the panelists that I am going to present right now, because I think it's a good opportunity to share our experience about data in the smart industry. Okay, so in this panel, we are going to talk about, because we know the digital transformation is necessary, we are going to discuss how the data is important for this transformation and how you can use the data to do a correct approach to be a successful and to have impact in the P&L. Okay, so let me introduce you the panelists that they are going to share with us their experience. Okay, first of all, we have Michael Bryan. He's the head of digital and innovation at Takeda Lessons, company producing life-saving medicines starting from donor's blood. Have a PhD in sciences and more than 10 years experiences in pharma industry with various roles such as process expert, staff expert, machine learning expert, and recently leading the digital transformation of Takeda Lessons. Okay, always he had passion for data, machine learning, deep learning, especially to solve business problems. Also, there is with us Andrea Sino. He's data evangelist of Denodo and always in love with data, starting from his training as a statistician up to his current role, trying to combine the technological aspect with the philosophical ones, because data have value only through their use, and the use depends on how we live or represent the world we live in. Okay. Another panelist is Stefano Maio. Stefano Maio, he's representing Tableau in Italy as country leader with responsibility to drive business in the enterprise market. Okay. There is another panelist, she's called Yusa, but I can introduce her later, okay? And then allow me to introduce myself. I'm Unai Obieta. I'm the Data Strategy and Analytics Director in Adecco. I have been working here since January of this year. Previously, I was working in Ferrovial Services as a Chief Digital Officer, doing the transformation in this company. And I have been working in the transformation data the last 15 years, always looking to impact in the P&L with data and culture as pillars to carry out this successfully. Okay, so I think thank you all of you to be here, and starting with the discussion. I think one of the main challenges that the industrial companies have is how to improve their maintenance. Okay, sorry, because I think Usa is here.
Yes,
hello,
she joined now.
Let me introduce you. Okay, Yusa Sari is a business transformational strategist who is responsible for enabling end-to-end digital transformation of all business processes to drive financial and operational efficiencies at a core. She has expertise in several industries, including oil and gas, chemical, pharma, and life science, and she is an organizational change agent who puts people first at the core transformation. So thank you, Yusa. Thank you, all of you. So starting with the panel, with the discussion, I'd like to know your opinion about how data, or how using the data, how can we improve the maintenance in the industrial, in this type of companies.
Yeah, I can start, I guess.
Okay.
Getting predictive maintenance. So it's quite a long journey, I would say, to switch from traditional to predictive maintenance. So again, I would say like a major or digital transformation, then you need data in order to drive this the predictive maintenance. So I don't know about my colleagues here, but the great thing about predictive maintenance is that you need to think about what kind of data you would need in order to assess, I would say, the state of your equipment. So, for instance, add vibrational sensor to get vibrational data analysis, and then use those data, probably this new data, in order to analyze your equipment and try to predict the potential failure of your equipment. So that's quite I would say an exciting thing. So I don't know about my colleagues if they have, I would say, a similar predictive maintenance journey, but that would be my first thought, though, thinking about predictive maintenance.
Thank you, Michael. Any one of you want to add something?
And I think, Michael, this is just a very, very important aspect, right? Because a lot of cost that happens in the operational side is more on the overhaul of the equipment, right? The maintenance side of it, right? If something shuts down or is not working, the cost of that is very high. So if we are able to identify using the power of the data and be able to identify those failure modes, there is a way to prevent them from happening, right? So we are not saying that the equipment never fail, but the chances of it happening, we can predict it sooner and we can actually maintain it so that we have the higher longevity, right? So I think data plays a very critical role from that perspective in the operations and the production side. I know that many companies are now already looking into that. The RFID technology, where you are actually scanning and finding the life of the equipment, right? When it needs to be maintained, what parts are missing, right? So those are already been in place for many years already, right? So I think this is just an added element and extension to say, okay, if you're in a process, sitting in a process control room and you want to know how the health of your operations are, then I think this will play a very critical role going forward.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay. I don't know if Stefano or
yeah,
Andrea,
it's thank you, Vinay. It's from my point of view that I have seen some companies implementing predictive maintenance program, let's say, based on data. What I usually underline, also because I'm coming from a software vendor, so the point is not to use one technology or the other, honestly. That's of course my technology is better than the other, but but I'm joking that all the technology are available, let's say, are available now. So everything related to machine learning or artificial intelligence is thanks to that capabilities. You can change the way you are using the data. I wanted to underline again, as I said yesterday during our presentation, it's the power that the company has to decide to give to the people involved in the process, that has to use the data for the right insight. So working by exception and having the right education of the behavior of the data, because it's described everywhere that sometimes what the return or some analysis can be sometimes different for what the human is expecting. So we have to educate who is involved in this process, how to use the correct data, how to get the insight, how to use the return or the analysis in order to be more effective. So to me, it's again the way you are implementing something, the way you are bringing a correct data culture in the company. That's something that we can follow with plan, program, and so on. That's my important point that I want to underline.
I think the aspect of empowerment that you mentioned, empowering the end users with the right information at the right time, I think that plays a very key role in the success of these programs, right? Because if I don't have the right information, then I can't act timely, right? I think that's an excellent point, Stefan.
I think with the, I heard a very magic word that is the right data, the right use to get value. I think that we sometimes, if you look to the entire life cycle of data, from the collection of the data up to the final use, quite often we are, let me say, we put our focus on the most exciting part of the data. That is probably the final one. So we talk a lot about predictive modeling, predictive maintenance, artificial intelligence, but sometimes we forget to mention that the right use, to get the maximum value from the data, you have to work on the meaning of the data. You need absolutely to make the meaning clear for the data consumers. And this is not a trivial task, because, you know, meaning is something of very, very complex, because it's a mix between an overall meaning at enterprise level, but also the private meaning that any of us assign to a specific data. And to make things worse, the meaning is always here and now. It is linked to our goal in that moment. So we need to have a data representation solution or model that is able to make this kind of meaning clear, to give the possibility to the data consumer to inspect, to know which data are available and what the data means, what the data came from, and also allowing the possibility to build new data like a Lego or IKEA approach, so to combine different data, because the meaning at the end is something very personal. For me, the same data could have different meaning from one day to the other, because in these different days I have different goals. So in my point of view, it's something that we are on which we need to put more focus than we are doing right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think all of you had talked about two important points for me. One of them is, as you said, Andrea, the technical is if we had a platform or where the data have to be served to use it, and then all the how to use the data, because if the data is not used correctly, at the end it doesn't impact in the business and it's not necessary to do it. So I'd like to know if you can share with us some experience about how to use the data, how the business is using the data, and how they are getting advantage of using the data in their business.
I'm representing more on the user side, so maybe I can go first on that.
Okay.
We provide a lot of insights through a lot of analytics, whether it's through Tableau or Power BI or any other dashboarding platforms that people are using, right? Or it's Data IQ or Alteryx. I mean, you name it, right? Any of these platforms and tools that provide us. I think I always struggle with one thing. There are two aspects to this whole situation, right? There's no limitation to amount of information that's currently being provided and sourced, right? It's coming from ERP systems and various other data repositories, right? Whatever information is provided to the user, there's always a need for something else. What I feel is missing is that how do you convert that information into insights and action that if I'm the manager taking responsible for inventory, for example, what do I do with it, right? Just looking at it, nice fancy charts and saying, here's what your inventory situation is. I want to know, what do I do with it, right? Where do I go next step? How can I optimize it if it's optimization is the goal? What do I do? What are my 5 key steps that I have to take to enable that, right? So I think the data enabling into action is what I find is often the gap from the usage, Unai, that you are asking, right? Because I get tons of data bombarded from our BW team, our IT team members, but converting that into actionable insights that I can actually do something with it, and it results in action, whether it's a financial driver or it is an improvement driver. That is where I'm still struggling with the current I would say the infrastructure that we have in general in the industry, is that there's quite a lot of information that is being provided, right? We have process mining technology, we have data mining technologies, we have dashboarding. I mean, you name it, right? That you all are experts in that area as well. I still struggle sitting in a user's spot is I've got all of this and I need it to be actionable, right? 3 steps I take that has this results on it, right? That's where I think where we have a lot of room and opportunity for how do you enable this data to be used in real world. Right?
Huh.
Yeah, I think this is the challenge we have in the near future, absolutely, Usha, because if you remember the old DIKW pyramid that has at the extreme data and then decision, we need to fill the gap, because quite often we say, okay, we have tons of data, so you can take the best possible decision, but we have to step all the path between the data, the very atomic data, and the decision, passing through information, knowledge, wisdom, and whatever. I agree with you, Usha. This is our challenge right now. It's not a matter of technology.
And I'll give you a very simple example, right? Every one of us can relate to that. When we have a sales order, right, that has to be processed, I think all of us in different industries always process some sales orders, right? If I know that the sales order is stuck somewhere, I know that it's an open order, right? I know it's an open order, but I need to know what is the reason why that is still open. Is it a credit block? As an example, right? Take a very simple example. A pricing block? Is it a block because of quality? Because for me, in order to make that open sales order into shipping it out of the door, I would need to know what I need to do. But just letting me know that here's a list of open orders doesn't really help me, right? As an example, Andrea, I thought I should relate that.
No, but I perfectly understand exactly. Is to move up one step, at least one step more, because it's not just a matter of presentation of the information. It's about to link what we know to what we can do, or we have to do or could do. This is the key point, absolutely. Not an easy task.
That's I think that all of us are absolutely agree on this point, that in fact in terms of data usage and how it is the relationship with the data, we have seen in the past the typical business intelligence application that was simply reporting something with then the step was to analyze something more to add data. Now we are talking about relevant data, first of all, so we need to understand which is the relevant for the analysis that we have to do, and then of course the prescriptive part, it's becoming absolutely a must. That is the correct insight, so the action that you need to do. So out of the tons of data, I had to select the relevant for the purpose. I had to understand which are the right analysis to do, and then I also need to understand which are the suggested actions. And by the way, here it's important to have the possibility that now technology offer, of course, to have what I call the serendipity of the data. So when I discovering something that I was not looking for, so that's the really useful insight. When I have the relevant information, I combine things, I use them the right purpose, and at the end, together with having the insight expected, let's say, I also discover some behavior that can suggest me some action to do better what I was expecting, and so on. That's the process that usually now we expect to do. Whereas again, instruments, okay, capabilities, but also the right professionals, of course, the education, and to be allowed to do, let's say, that sometimes people are not allowed to decide as a perfect data-driven approach, because we don't trust sometimes in what an artificial intelligence algorithm is deciding on behalf. No, that's sometimes is matter of education.
But I think also one key point, in addition to what was said, in order to design the right solution, the right tool to consume the data, is also to involve the final user in the overall process. So they probably better know what kind of relevant data they would need to do the maintenance and so on, or what kind of additional data they would need to build the solution. And also we discuss about having like kind of visualization with Power BI, Tableau, and so on. Now we have also some application that we can do. So they also probably they can also teach us in which way they want to consume the data. And I would say one of the the methodology that I quite like to involve this kind of user. It's to have like design thinking methodology. When you have the different consumer, you have your interview, you build a solution with them, and then you test different prototypes, and then you select the one that have the best feedback, and you continue improving the solution. And I think that it's one of the way I would say to engage the data consumer, and then finally to have this this engagement of the people, and not just use data to get data, but get data and then have actions and decision making with the data behind.
Yeah.
I think another, Stefano has used another magic word, that is trust. My question is also, in your experience, how this, let me say, how the ability to speak the same language between, I don't know, data analysts or data scientists and the businesses is a key factor. Because, you know, also in our daily life, when we trust someone, is a mix of empathy, language, to talk in a very similar way. So my feeling that in some cases there is a big gap for a very technical and specialistic language from the data analyst space and the businesses. And so this difficult to communicate can lead in some cases to a lack of trust, and so that the value that is potential in the result of the analytics part is not grasped by the businesses, just because they doesn't understand what they are talking about. Yeah. So what do you think for
Andrea? I think because I have suffered it, I think it is very important to be this profile, this data analysis of the data scientist has to be in the business. It has to be in a centralized way, because they need to be very close to the business to understand them, and to be very close to work together. At the end, I think people who are going to play with the data has to know the business and how to implement and how to engage data with business. So I think it's necessary that these profiles, data analysis and data scientists, when the business has enough maturity, I think they have to be there. I think I work in that way, and it works. It's difficult, but it works.
I mean, if I may add to that, you know, Andrea, the two kinds of users in my world, right? Users who know exactly what they want, right? They tell you, they're very articulate. They can articulate a problem. They can articulate what information they're looking for. They can also articulate exactly where they want to see the information to go, right? And then you have this another bucket where I'm waiting for you to give me, because they're not that informed, or they're very siloed in their own process, right? They're not looking at end-to-end view of things, so to speak. So I think if you, you know, to Unai's point, you bring data scientists and business users together, I think there's also a role for data scientists to understand that their audience is not often as informed as they would like it to be. So often the clashes happen because data scientists saying, hey, I've given you all the information, right? But the receiving person may not always be the informed user. So I think data scientists play a very, very critical role in this journey for organizations. And we are going through that process right now. You know, in our organization, this whole concept of wanting to have a data scientist is fairly new. You know, we have been pushing now our leadership to say we need this layer, and this layer needs to be sitting very close to the business, not far away in IT, right? That's a constant debate happening anyways. But I think this individual or this group of team members have to understand the other side. And I think they play a very critical role in this journey of where we go from predictive analytics or how the data goes forward.
Very good point. I have seen several projects, successful project, and if I remember which was the key success factors, I had to say first, just to comment the previous what we said, it's I would recommend to not use the final user or end user no more. There is no end user. Everybody are user, or maybe are the most important because they can recommend what is important. And the keyword to me is multidisciplinarity. So where we have a table with the more competencies, like who is to have the recommendation from what is happening, in this case, who is the expert of the data, so the quality, the trust, whatever. Sometimes in the project that I have seen that there is a, okay, the technology, so the expert for the technology, but also sometimes some startups or professor that can add value in this very multidisciplinary table where some ideas can come and can be put in a real program. That's what I had experiences and did it was very successful. Lots of a company that has this kind of process that were very successful with the right involvement, the right people, and the leadership as well, of course.
In your experience, do you see that companies are embracing these various data roles, whether you call them data stewards or scientists or engineers? Do you think companies are going away from the traditional IT kind of role where you have a group of, you see that happening more and more in industries? Or is it still specialized with companies, who provide these services?
That, depending on how the company is driven, how the company, the leadership is understanding that the business can be driven by the data. So it's different business by business. The more modern, let's say, data-driven company, it happens. Maybe not exactly as you describe it, but it's happening. And usually what I've seen, it's a mix between internal resources and external. But the reason why I said specifically startups that sometimes are 2-3 persons that are specialized in the different role that you describe it, that are not, is not the case to have internally sometimes. While it's important to have internally the expert of the internal data, where their data come from, who manage the data management platform, something like that. And again, professor can be another role that can be the one that can help on another task. So it's that's the reason why I mentioned that this multidisciplinarity.
Yeah, I think also there is a I feel that there is a more and more the need to have data scientists, analysts, and so on in the team. But I think also that from a human resource perspective, or even from a manager perspective, leadership perspective, that there are some confusion about those roles. So I see a lot. Yes, there is a job posting about having a machine learning analyst, engineer. So mixing a bit all those roles in one person, which is quite difficult, or let's say impossible. So I see that there is a need, but I see also that there are still confusion bits, because for some companies those new roles are quite new, and so you see that let's put keywords together, and in the job description let's put keywords together, and hopefully this will make sense for some people. So
guys, thanks a lot. I'm sorry, we have just 1 minute left. If you can do it, because automatically the breakout room starts, and after the 20 minutes again back for the rest of the conference. So in 1 minute, if you are finalizing something before getting divided.
Okay. If you want to share with us a briefly conclusion, very briefly, because we have 1 minute.
I think I'll say that I'm a big believer of data, and I think that is what takes us to success, because data doesn't lie. It's the facts, and I think as more and more organizations start relying on the facts combined with their gut feeling, I think there's better decision making opportunities across the board.
Yeah, I would say treat data with respect. They have a lot to say, but you need to treat them with care. It's not an easy task to move from data from decision.
And listen data.
Yeah.
And learn to listen.
Hoping to speak the same language.
And don't forget also I would say the soft skills behind. So technical skills are great, but communication, how you deal with that is important, most important than the rest, I would say.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thanks for that.
So thank you very much, all of you. And I think we have finished on time. So thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
thank you so much. Now be patient.